Yes, Mr. Wabo, do you have any questions? Want me to share your PPTs? Then I will share it, ma'am.
Just a minute, I'm trying it in my own laptop. I tried on the computer. Just
Okay. Sure, ma'am.
it's visible now, so I will close here.
Yes, ma'am. Now it is visible.
So I have to share my PPT.
Yes, definitely. So before starting the session, I would like to introduce everyone to Dr. Farzana Begum, madam. She is an associate professor and her specialization is adult health nursing, critical care. And she's working in SUM Nursing College in Cuttack. As her qualification, she is a PhD nursing graduate and she's having 25 plus years of experience in teaching, clinical practice, and research and guidance. And as an international exposure, she is an assistant professor in Taif University, Saudi Arabia from 2019 to 2025. As her research and publications background, she is having 46 publications, 141 citations, 3 books, manuals, research as a research guidance. She has guided MSc, UGs and PG nursing students. As an academic role, she is an examiner and a paper setter for UG and PG students. And as her professional engagement, she is a reviewer, editor, and she has worked as a speaker and resource person. So, ma'am, it's over to you and just continue the session, ma'am.
My screen is visible to you, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll start it now. Well, I can't see here while opening my screen. So
Yes,
if
ma'am.
I miss those, please let me know. So let's start
Yeah,
the session. Good morning, everybody. And since last 2 days, you people have 4 classes in 2 days. That is all about research. And I believe you all are familiar with research, its steps and all. Today we'll discuss here abstract and introduction. Though this is a part of research which is placed in the very beginning of a thesis or dissertation, but often a time we are writing this at the end because we need to mention our result also. So that's why we are preparing this at the end. Here it is again mentioned capturing the reader's attention in the first 500 words. So why those 500 words? What is the importance of this abstract and introduction? Because the 500 words only that decide the fate of your manuscript, whether it's going to be published or rejected, whether the reader is going to continue reading or stop there. So abstract actually sells our paper. So whenever you are trying for publication or any proposal in anywhere like for scholarship or anything, so people they engage in the abstract part before they go to other parts like the methodology. So, because abstract, it's a stand-alone paragraph that gives the whole picture or idea to the reader what is there later on. So editors and viewers, they may decide what they will do before they will go to your methodology part. Rejection is often a time it happened because of unclear storytelling, means if our abstract we are not writing in a proper way. So that's why remember, you don't get rejected because your study is bad. Rather, it's maybe a failure to write the story properly or an unclear story. So reader, they prefer a low mental work, means just in a quick glance, they want to catch what they are searching for. They are reading for that, they are searching those hook points. So within a second or within few seconds, they decide whether we'll go further with this article or not. So that's why a clear opening that create a smooth narrative path and that pulls the reader forward. So that is the importance of an abstract. And in many of the indexing sites like the PubMed or Scopus, Web of Science, you may find the abstract part visible. You may not find the whole paper visible to you, but the abstract part is always visible. And if you will be interested to go through the whole study, then you have to pay some amount and purchase those articles. It's like that. So abstract is like it's a trailer of the whole movie, like that. So that's why it's so important. So let's continue. Let's know about abstract and introduction. Here today we'll discuss what is abstract, what an abstract is not, purpose of an abstract, core components of an abstract, how to write an effective abstract, common abstract mistakes, saying results clearly, how to say the results clearly, which types of phrases we should use. Then we'll see the final checklist before sending for anything, any input or the publication or anything, what we need to check in the abstract. Then regarding the introduction, again, we will see what is introduction, what an introduction is not, purpose of the introduction, core component of an introduction, how to write a strong introduction, what to avoid in an introduction, and final checklist. So these are few points we will discuss. So what is abstract? Abstract is the concise stand alone. Concise means no unnecessary content should be there. It's just the how much required meaningful things only there. Stand alone. Standing alone, it can properly explain the whole study and summary of a research paper that presents the problem, the purpose, the methods, key findings, and the significance of a study. It enables readers to quickly understand what the study is about and decide whether to read the full paper or not. In a research article or in a thesis or dissertation, this abstract you will find just after the title. And often the only section that is visible in indexed database that I told you earlier. The first impression a research makes on reader's editor or reviewer, this abstract is the only paragraph that makes the first impression, so and decide your fate. Now, what an abstract is not. So sometimes we may get confused, and I have seen some of the studies of the students, PhD, MSc students, they are doing this mistake. So they are repeating the same paragraph in abstract, introduction, everywhere. The literature review also they enter in lots of amount. I have a sore throat, that's a little bit issues there. Okay, so an abstract, it's not an introduction. So abstract must be very concise, 150 to 300 words like that. And sometimes the journals, they have their own policy that how much words should be. So what people they do, they mention lots of literature review and introduction part, background, they mention a lot. So these are the fault. It's not an introduction. It's not a proposal. Abstract is not a literature review, and it's not a narrative explanation. And it should not be written in future tense, because I told you, though it is visible in the beginning part of the thesis dissertation, but it needs to be written at the end because we are mentioning the results in that. So it must be in past tense. Don't write in future tense. And it is not an evaluation or for the defense of the study. The function of an abstract is to describe. It's not for any justification or argue. Now, what is the purpose of an abstract? It provides a snapshot of the entire study. It acts as a time-saving tool for busy readers and researchers. It helps editors and reviewers to assess the relevancy, whether the article is relevant to their journal or not, and enables indexing, retrieval in database. If sometime you want to search a paper just by, there are search option in the database, like you can search articles by the name of the authors or through keywords, or if you have the abstract, you will copy and paste the abstract there, directly you can get that paper. So these are the options there. So we are using abstract for all these purposes. Now, what are the core components of an abstract? The core components of an abstract are background. Background means you have to mention what is the problem, why it is so important. You have to mention that in 1 to 2 lines, very concise, very shortly, briefly you have to mention. Then you have to mention the research gap, what is missing or unknown in the existing knowledge. Then the aim or objective part, what did the study intended to do? Your study, the current study, what is the aim? What exactly you are searching for? Mention the objective with very clearly, with clarity. Methods, how was the study conducted? How you have conducted the study, how you collected data, how you analyzed, and how the result you with statistical formula applied, and how the result inference you found. So those things you need to mention. Key results, what were the main finding, major findings. Then conclusion, why this finding mattered, the importance of the finding or the scope for the findings, the utilization, where it can be used. Then the implications, where we can use those findings in regard to practice, with regard to education, policy, and research. Now, how to write an effective abstract? So, for this, stays within the prescribed word, usually 150 to 300 words. But again, I told you, it varies. Sometimes the journals, they have their own policy. So these things little bit go up or down. Sometimes mostly 150 to, on an average, 300 words or 400 words. It must be clear, concise, precise, and use simple language. Avoid unnecessary background or repetition of content. Avoid citation and unexplained abbreviation. Don't mention the abbreviation, for example, like WHO, ICMR, and don't use the citation, any citation. There should not be any citation in the abstract part. Introduce the problem clearly, act as a hook. To draw the attention of the reader, use a hook point with a question. You can start your like conversation or the abstract part by raising a question or hook. So specifies the aim or research question, explain why the study was undertaken, highlight the novelty and significance of the study, what new you have done. Because you are not doing a study just to replicate, because you are not checking now whether the previous studies are done properly, correctly or not. No. So whenever we are conducting a study, there is some novelty, something new we are adding to the knowledge or something new we are searching. So that's why knowledge gap, the research gap, we are searching for the research gap, which area is missed, which area is not properly means identified or explored. So that's why what is the new things you are doing in your studies. So what is that gap? You must mention that. Then mention the study design, setting, sample very briefly, provide enough details to understand how the study was conducted and avoid technical or procedural details. Technical procedural details like I used the SPSS 26. I first applied on the spreadsheet data, then in SPSS, then I applied this formula. So these things don't mention in the abstract. This you can mention in the methodology part, how data collected and all that. So if you are using all this mention in the questionnaire, type of questionnaire you have used, how many questions are there, these types of unnecessary content don't use in the abstract part. So this is I am saying because I have seen my students, they are mentioning all this in abstract, means the type of question and how many items in the question and what are how to respond, all these things when they are coming first time writing their abstract and all, they mentioning everything in that. So don't write all these things. Focus on results, then procedures, and use the past tense and in specific outcome. Report key findings only the major findings, and highlight the importance of implications of the finding. What are the common mistakes students are doing? Those are too much background. I told you already, too much background. Using citations, abbreviations, acronyms. This we discussed already. So these things they are doing the mistake. Weak justification of study. Weak justification means you have to justify why you have selected that topic, why you have selected those objectives. So if you are unable to justify, then again your study become weak, poor. So for that reason, you have to explore the exact research gap. Then only you can justify what was the gap. That's why to fill that gap, what you have means selected the objectives. Then if aims are not clearly stated, objectives are not clearly mentioned, sometimes phrases are used like this paper will examine this. So these things, the future tenses should not be used. No novelty, there is no new things, just the replication of a study. Mention details of statistical software, table, figure, excessive statistics. These are people they are doing. So no clear result, main result not clearly stated, vague terms like significant improvement without any data, without giving the data, just writing there is significant improvement found. You must mention, if you are saying that significant improvement is there, you must support this with your finding. Okay, what is the finding? What is the p-value? You must mention those things. And if not understood independently, That's why we are saying abstract is the stand-alone paragraph. Okay, so if it's not independently understood, again, this is a problem. Then again, if poorly reflecting the full paper, poor alignment between the abstract and introduction. If there is means no connection, no alignment between the abstract and introduction. So these are some of the mistakes for which often a time our paper may get rejected while we are sending for a publication. So I told you how to say, means here example I have given, how to saying the result. For example, if you are mentioning this report exam is the cause of oversleeping or study on oversleeping, it's not sounds that good. It might not draw the attention of the reader. On the other hand, if you are saying oversleeping was associated with late bedtime, failure to set alarm, low light exposure. So directly, clearly mentioning that this caused this. So this is how means this is just the skill how to say the result to draw the attention of the readers and the reviewers. So the final checklist after completing the abstract part, what you will check? You must check or ask yourself what was done, what you have done, why was it done, and what was found, what was the result, what I found. Why are these findings are important? If these are clear to you, then your abstract is complete. You can move forward. So this is all about abstract. Now moving forward to introduction. Now what is introduction? Often a time our my students, they come to me, they are saying the abstract and introduction same, and they just copy paste the same thing in abstract and introduction. They believe this is the same thing, but this is not same. There is a vast difference between abstract and introduction. So though the flow is in the same way, but in abstract, this is very much precise, very much concise. There is a limit of words. But in introduction, there is means it may be several papers and there is no limit of words, and in more in depth we are describing the things. It's not the same thing. At the end I have a table where I have mentioned the differences. We'll discuss later. So what is introduction? Introduction is the opening section of a research paper. This is the first paragraph in your chapter 1. First part in chapter 1, this explains why this topic matter. It identifies the knowledge gap and leads the reader to the study's aim, means the other aspect of the study, like the aim and research question. Title and abstract. This is a part of the chapter 1 in the thesis or dissertation. What is an introduction is not. It's not an abstract. It's not again literature review. It's not summary of result. It's not an opinion or emotional narrative. And it's not a repetition of any textbook definition. Then what this is? What is the purpose of this? The main purpose are it establishes the importance of the topic, shows what is already known, clearly identifies what is missing, what is the research gap, what are the things that are not clearly explored or not mentioned, which area is not explored. It justifies the need for the study, why the study is important, and prepare the reader for further study. The core components of introduction are like it's like a funnel. We must mention a logical flow from a broad to very specific flow. In paragraph 1, you have to mention the big picture, like the background. In that, you can introduce the topic broadly, explain why it matters, what is the relevancy in clinical area, in social or policy making or scientific relevancy, what is there, what is the use in these areas, use global or to regional statistics, what is the global picture. For example, internet addiction. So, if I am doing a study addiction in a particular area, particular city, okay. So, for example, in a city of, for example, Indore, I am selecting. So first, I must mention what is the global scenario. What is the scenario across the globe regarding internet addiction, and as per my population, if it is adults like something, so what is the prevalence there? Then what is the prevalence in India, across India? Then I may come to that state like that from a global to narrow, you have to narrow down to the local area, how the prevalence, and that's why what is there, why you are selecting that article. So all the time mention the statistics. If you find, you can mention the statistics, give the citation that this is the recent finding, this type of prevalence are there. So narrow down the discussion, or that's why this is called, it's like a funnel. Then focus on real world impact, not the textbook definition. Avoid using any textbook definition. Why? Because textbooks, particular people are there, they are reading the textbook, and textbook content are already approved as a knowledge part, but it's not based on critical thinking. In research, in dissertation, or while writing a thesis, when we are writing the introduction, we must mention the definition or the findings based on the previous studies, the evidence-based finding we need to mention. Like, for example, regarding internet addiction, you may find several definitions on the books, but don't mention those definitions from there. Rather, you can mention the finding based on the previous research that internet addiction is related to this region or something. So it should not be textbooks based definition. Then in second paragraph, you can mention the key existing evidences, previous studies, show the awareness of relevant literatures, highlight the major findings, use the citation selectively. Quality over quantity means don't focus on mentioning several number or more number of citations, rather focus on the quality or the findings, good findings, and mention few references, citation, it's okay, but your findings should be good, only the authentic and very clear, and what is supporting to your study, those findings should be mentioned. And avoid exhaustive literature review or citation overload. In third paragraph, you can mention the research gap, and this is very important because this is the core justification why you have selected that study. So that's why this is very important. So in research gap, you have to mention what is missing, what is unclear, and what is under research, what the previous studies have not addressed, which area is left. So you have to mention. So few of the very common power phrases you can use, like however limited evidence found in this area, but this part is not mentioned, or very few studies have mentioned about this. So that's why I have decided to conduct study on this topic like this. In fourth paragraph, you can mention the aim, the research question, the importance, significance of the study, and the objectives clearly and very precisely you have to mention. Identify the population and intervention. Population means for whom your result is going to be generalized. So that is your population. So identify the population, explain why the study is so important, how it will be implemented in the practice area, in the education field, in the policy sector, or for the future research. Then now coming to how to write a strong introduction. It must be in a logical flow. Logical flow means logical progression from a broad to specific. I told you, global to local. Then think of the introduction as a funnel. So first discuss the global problem, the global picture, then come to the known evidences, prove your discussion or whatever you are saying. So support it with the data or the finding, with the known evidences, what are the studies already conducted before and what are their findings, then what are the knowledge gap, and how you have decided what is the novelty, so what are your objectives. So clearly mention that. Clear alignment with the abstract, strong justification of the study, explicit statement of novelty, and objectives in an academic tone. You have to mention all these things. So this is how you can write a very strong introduction. Now, what to avoid in an introduction? So if we know what to avoid, then we can write the introduction exactly how it should be. So there should not be any textbook definition, I told you before, because this dictionary or textbook definition, they make the writing in a descriptive manner, but not analytical. Means it's not based on previous evidence, it's not research based. So we need to mention the definition, those are research based or evidence based, previously based on the findings of previous studies. Then emotional or opinionated language. Don't use emotional language, opinionated, your personal opinion. Repetitive, abstract, verbatim, same paragraph or language. Don't just copy paste whatever you have mentioned in abstract. Don't write the same in introduction. Then overloading of citation, avoid overloading of citation, just mention the citation or references as per the exact fact what you are mentioning. So mention the citation for that. Like for example, if you are describing the global picture and there you are mentioning the data, the statistical data of some studies, then that in that area you must support your this statement. If you are saying that this is the prevalence, then support that with the citation reference, okay, from with the sources from where you found that information. You must mention that, but it's not needed that each and whatever not necessary you are overloading with background and mentioning or all the citation. This is you must avoid these things. Then unclear or missing research gap. You have to identify the research gap, justify your study. If the aim is not clear, and weak or implicit justification of the study, no clear novelty or contribution in policy or education or practice sector, if there is no implication of the study, then also it is a waste. Poor alignment with the abstract and introduction. So these things you need to avoid. So after finishing writing the introduction part, you need to make a final check whether anything left or anything means what you need to avoid, it is there, so you need to check that. So how to check? What are the questions you must keep in your mind? Does it immediately signal the relevancy to practice policy, education, public health? A good research title or a good research topic is the finding must serve the practice area or policy sector or education immediately. It's not like that the result, what we found, it's not immediately applicable. If it's not immediately applicable, then it's not a good research. A good research is only that whose result is immediately applicable to which areas like the policy sector, education sector, social sector, scientific research sector, all that. And is the opening is specific, not generic? Is the topic clearly framed within its broader field? Are key concepts introduced early? Is the background selective, not a mini literature review type? Are recent sources cited appropriately? Don't use very old resources. You all know, I think, just use the 5 year, last 5 year. So then is the core problem or issue explicitly stated? Is its significance is clear, importance is clear? And does the gap emerge logically from the background? Whatever the gap you are identifying, is it logical? Is it truly it is there, the gap is there? Then is it clear whether the gap is theoretical, methodological, contextual, or practical? So there may be a gap in the theoretical aspect or in the methodology or maybe in the background or in the anywhere. So whenever you are finding the gap, you need to mention in which type of research gap is there, and you are going to address that. Is the aim stated clearly, concisely? Does it directly address the identified gap? Are objectives, research question aligned with the title? Is it clear what is new about the study? So just ask these questions to yourself before sending it. Then does the introduction state how this work adds value to existing knowledge? And is the introduction framed in terms of practice, education policy, or theory? Does the introduction move from broad, focused, and specific? Are paragraphs clearly connected? No sudden jump. There should not be. It should means it like a flow. The flow should be maintained in a logical way, from a broader picture to specific narrow picture. Then is the tone is in academic tone, confident, neutral? It's not like promotional. Are the claims supported by the citation? Whatever fact you have mentioned, are these facts are supported with the citation? Then is the length appropriate for the journal? Like I told you, each and every journal, they have their own policy, how many words, how to write and all that. So you must check in which journal you are going to, means you are sending for publication for the review. What is their rule? How many words they have allowed? Is it as per that policy? So this is all. So here we will see what are the differences between abstract and introduction. If we see the purpose, abstract, the purpose of the abstract is summarize the entire study. In a very briefly, in 150 to 300 words, abstract paragraph will summarize the entire study. Then introduction, it explains why the study was needed. In introduction part, you won't find the result and other things. Methodology, these things you won't find. You will find the background and why, what is the research gap, why you have decided to take this topic this much. And what is the main question answered in abstract? What was done? You will find the result in abstract. What was done? What was found and why it matters. But in introduction, why is this topic is important, you will find. What gap does the study address? These things you will find. Regarding the placement, you will see the abstract part in a thesis or dissertation after the title. After the title, but the introduction part, it appears at the beginning of the main text, chapter 1. Then regarding the length, the abstract length vary from 150 to 300 words, but introduction paragraph that it's longer, oftentimes, sometimes several paragraph or several pages, 2-3 pages sometimes. Then content coverage in the abstract, it covers the background, aim, methods, results, and conclusion. In introduction, the content what is called coverage is mainly the background, the existing knowledge, the research gap, and aim. Regarding the results, in the abstract, it includes the finding, but in introduction, you won't find any results, any finding of the study. Then level of detail in abstract, it is highly condensed, very much selective. But in introduction, this is more like elaborative, explanatory, and standalone nature. Abstract must be independently understandable and it must explain the whole picture in a very concise way. But introduction, it depends on the rest of the paper. After going through the introduction, you can't get a complete picture of the study. But if you read the abstract part, you will get the complete picture of the study. Now, regarding the use of citation in abstract, absolutely no citation allowed. Don't mention any citation. But in introduction part, citations are commonly used because when you are describing from global perspective to local perspective and you are mentioning you are supporting what you are saying with the data, statistical findings, previous research, you have to cite with the resource. So that's why in introduction, you may find citations. Then regarding the tense, in abstract, we are using past tense always because after completion of the study, we are writing the abstract. But in introduction, you may write in present tense or past tense. Then audience, abstract mostly, who are reading the abstract? Readers, editor, reviewer, and search engine. So there you will find the abstract. Introduction part, if you have the complete study article, then only you may access the introductory part. So readers preparing to engage with the full study. So only if you have the full study paper, full paper, you can access the introduction part. Functions, the function of abstract is to attract and inform quickly. But the function of introduction is to justify and contextualize the study. So these are the main differences. Okay, it's finished here. So I'm ready to have question from you now. Any question from your side, please?
I think, ma'am, no one is having the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I think no one is having any questions. Everyone is cleared with the things, ma'am. And if anyone has any queries, they can ask, ma'am.
Anybody
I think-
have any question? I'm here to discuss that with you. No question?
No, ma'am, it was very clear, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll finish the lecture here.
Thanks for your precious
Manisha,
time, and thanks.
madam,
Yes, ma'am, and thanks for this lovely presentation in this session. Because I am even I'm also totally clear with the things. Even sometimes I also used to have some problems at the time of writing the articles and all between the abstract and the introduction. When we used to make it precisely, then sometimes some people they used to do that blunder also, that they will put the citation in the abstract. Because while writing my first paper, I remember I did the same thing, but like one of my colleague and one of my like professor, they told me that you are not supposed to use this thing. But seriously, ma'am, the was wonderful. I loved it, ma'am. Thank you for the session,
yeah,
ma'am.
there is often a time my students, I found them, they are copying and pasting the same paragraph in the abstract and introduction, both heading. And so the main differences, they don't know. That's why they're mentioning all these things. So, and this is very important one. Okay,
Yes.
then we can, I can leave the meeting.
Definitely, ma'am.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much for
yeah, most
opportunity,
welcome,
Manisha,
ma'am.
and we'll be in
Thank
touch. Thank you
definitely,
very
ma'am.
much for. Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank
ma'am.
you all the participants for the patience listening. And if anytime anybody need any assistance, you feel free to contact me. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a wonderful day, ma'am. So we will start up with the new session. So I would like to ask Linda, ma'am, to carry forward with this, ma'am.
Thank you, Mani ma'am, for handing over the session. So I will be moderating for the session 2. So a brief introduction about me. I'm T. Linda Moy, Assistant Professor from the Assam Royal Global University, Assam. So right away, we will start with the next session. So our speaker for today's session, session 2, is Ma'am D. Bhuvaneshwari. A brief introduction about Ma'am Bhuvaneshwari. D. Bhuvaneshwari ma'am is RN, RM, MSc Nursing, and is currently working as a professor cum principal at the Ratnama College of Nursing, Gudur, Andhra Pradesh, and pursuing her PhD from Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research, Chennai. And she pursued her master in obstetrics and gynecology nursing from the TN Dr. MGR Medical University. And she has nearly 17 years of experience in the field of nursing. She has published many research papers in national and international journals. She also attended and presented research papers in various national and international level conference and workshop. She owns professional membership of various associations like the TNAI, NRSI, NSS, GINRAF, ANEI, GFNPSS, GIAR, and also holds editor and reviewer position in both national and international journals. She reviewed and authored many books and journal papers. Now I hand it over the session to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, do my voice is audible, ma'am?
Yes, it's
Yes.
audible, ma'am.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to extend my warm gratitude for giving me this opportunity for Manisha, ma'am. And thank you, Linda, ma'am, for the brief description about me. So just I'll share my screen.
Sure. ma'am.
Ma'am, do my screen is visible?
Yes, it's visible, ma'am. Mhm.
I'll start with that. A very good afternoon to everyone. So today we are going to discuss about publication ethics, COPE guidelines, authorship, and AI usage policies. So the outline of the today's session. So what are all the points we are going to discuss today? For as follows, that is publication ethics, about the introduction, its purpose, definition and importance, and the COPE guidelines regarding the COPE practices and transparency about the COPE guidelines, and authorship guidelines, authorship problems and its preventive measures, and AI usage policies. So there is a great saying, honesty is the best policy. So while publishing, so we have to be very honest in publishing our own manuscript. It should not be written by others, or it should not be fabricated or falsificated or duplicate from the others' work. So the publication ethics are nothing but the rules and regulations. So whereas how our schools, institution or colleges, companies have their own rules and regulations to follow the discipline of that particular institution or organization, our publication ethics also follows certain rules and regulations to maintain the conduct of the researchers. So in case it will effectively enhance the research work. So generally, it is a standard that protects intellectual property and forbids the republication of another's work without proper credit. So what are all the areas it focuses, such as honesty and integrity, that care of animals, respecting the IPR, that intellectual IPR, and objectivity, openness, avoiding the scientific misconduct, and avoiding plagiarism, that is copy and paste, confidentiality, responsible publishing, so data management, protection of human subjects. So these are all the areas which is focused by the publication ethics. So what is the need and purposes of publication ethics? So why it is needed in, especially in our research area? So main thing is to make sure the researcher is accountable. Accountable is nothing but the person who is publishing the manuscript is wholly responsible and answerable for the action and the outcome, whether it is negative or positive, whether the manuscript is accepted or not accepted into the publishing area. Only the researcher is accountable for that particular publishing, and then prevent the misconduct. Or I've already told, misconduct is nothing but the unacceptable behavior, that is stealing others' work is also comes under the misconduct. So usually when we complete a course like a school or college, we'll be getting a conduct certificate. So it indicates the honesty and the behavior of that particular person. Likewise, so the publication ethics is needed to prevent the misconduct in the research area. And then it will help the researchers, the following researchers, to reproducibility. Reproducibility is nothing but the consistent result will be followed. So if you people have been published a manuscript, if the students are following, that is referencing our research for the future research area, so they have, it will help them to repeat the research reproducibility, and it will protect the people. And finally, it helps to take decision making when complex issues coming up. So for that purpose only, publication ethics is needed. So what are the definitions of publication ethics? So we have a various definitions for publication ethics. The first one is nothing but, I've already told you, it's nothing but the discipline, for the discipline purpose, and it is a standard, and it is the rules and regulations. So likewise, publication ethics refers to the principles and standards that guide the behavior of individuals involved in the publication process, including authors, editors, reviewers, and the peer groups. To my screen is visible, ma'am? Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Next, publication ethics are the guidelines that are developed to ensure world-class scientific publication, public's faith in scientific research, and proper credit for authors' original ideas and work. So automatically, when we follow the publication ethics, it creates a trustworthiness on the researcher and the author, because we are producing our own original ideas and work, and we are publishing it. We are not stealing from others. And its ethical principles guides and support researchers, editors, reviewers, and others involved in publication ethics to do their work responsibly and transparently. So we have to be very responsible and transparent in publishing our research area. Then ethical standards are for publication exist to ensure high quality scientific publication, public trust in scientific findings, for that. Yes. Just a second, ma'am. Sorry for the inconvenience. So, next one is importance. So why it is important to follow the publication ethics? First thing is integrity and credibility. Integrity. So what do you mean by integrity? So integrity is nothing but being honest. So we have to be honest in producing our own research work and in publication. So first thing, what are the core values of integrity? Is nothing but the trust. So we have to be very trustworthy, and we have to follow the fairness, and then we have to be honesty, and we have to respect, and then responsibility. So these are all the 5 core values while following the integrity in our research publication. And what is credibility? Credibility is nothing but your trustworthiness. So it defines the character. So if you're trustworthy and being honest, it defines the character of an author or the reviewer or the editor or the journal publisher. So integrity and credibility is very much important in exhibiting our publication. And next thing is prevention of misconduct. So misconduct is nothing but, I've already told you, it's an unacceptable behavior or illegal. When we follow the illegal or unethical things, it's a bad habit or a bad kind we follow in a publication, such as plagiarism, data fabrication, and falsification. So next, recognition and accountability. So accountability is nothing but we have to be very responsible as a researcher or the reviewer, as an author, as a publisher. That particular person has to be responsible and answerable to all the outcomes, whether it is negative or positive. So in such case, they will receive the appropriate credit for the work. And then conflict of interest management. So what is conflict of interest? So the conflict means, we know, that is difference of opinion or the argument or the fight. So our personal, that is a person's, individual person's conflict, such as financial problem or the personal problem or the social problem or the family problem, should not affect our research work. So that is the conflict of interest management. So we have to disclose that while publishing our research work. And then promotion of fairness. So we have to follow the follow these ethical standards to promote the fairness in our publication process. So why it matters? Publication ethics, why it matters here? So first thing is, it will protect the credibility of the scientific literature and ensures public trust and safeguard the reputation of researchers. That is very much important. And then what are the key pillars? So first thing I've already told you, that is integrity and accountability. All this matters here. The key pillars of the publication ethics are honesty in reporting the data. So while giving our data, we should not falsify that, we should not fabricate that, we should not plagiarize, we should not copy and paste from the others. So we should be honest in our reporting data, whether it is true or the negative. This way it gives a positive effect or the negative effect. We have to provide the honesty in reporting our data. And then accountability for the findings, again the same thing. So whatever the findings, whether suppose we are conducting the investigations or the research on effectiveness of so and so intervention on control group and experimental group, whether it shows a difference in experimental group or control group, no, doesn't matter. We have to be accountable for the findings. And then proper attribution of work. So we have to be contribution, that the contribution from the researcher or the author should be full-fledgedly from their side on their own. And next is scope guidelines. We are going to discuss about the scope guidelines. These are all the areas that the scope focuses. So I'll discuss it further. So we need a culture of responsibility for the integrity of the literature. It's not just the job of editors. So always, it's not the responsibility of editors. So the person who is producing the research work is solely responsible for the integrity of the researcher. And next, introduction to the COPE guidelines. So what do you mean by COPE? So COPE is nothing but the Committee on Publication Ethics. It is a global organization which is founded in 1977 for providing the resources, guidance, and flowchart for editors, publishers, and authors. So what is the core practice or the main area that is followed by the COPE? Is the detailed guidelines. So they will provide the detailed guidelines for managing misconduct and authors membership, authors disputes and conflicts of interest. So these are all the core practices of COPE guidelines. And next is, what is the 2025 new update? So they focus on batch retraction for systemic management, that is paper mills, and the new forms of retraction. Here, previously, they followed retraction with removal, retraction with replacement. So we have two things in batch retraction, that is a retraction with replacement and retraction with removal. Retraction with replacement is nothing but some errors which may be corrected. So they will be replacing that errors with correction and it will be published in a particular journal. But whereas retraction with removal is nothing but they will not publish that particular research article or the journal paper into that particular publication journals, Elsevier, Sage, or Taylor and Francis, and national and international journals. So these are all the new updates according to the COPE. So here the COPE follows the 10 core practices and 16 principles of transparency. So the main important thing, the two areas which covers by the COPE is 10 core practices and the principles of transparency. Under core practices, we have 10 things. Under transparency, we have 16 principles. So what are all the 10 areas that is focused by the COPE? The first thing is allegation of misconduct. Second is authorship and contributorship. Then complaints and appeals. And fourth is conflicts of interest or competing interest. And then data and reproducibility. Next is ethical oversight. And then is intellectual property. Next, journal management, peer review process, post-publication dispute, and corrections. So these are all the 10 areas which is focused by the scope. So we'll discuss in detail. First thing is allegation of misconduct. So what do you mean by allegation of misconduct? So all misconduct means unacceptable behavior or the bad behavior, the illegal or unethical behavior from the particular person. And next, what do you mean by the definition? So misconduct in research and publication refers to unethical actions such as falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, duplicate submission, and inappropriate. Just a second, ma'am. Shit. Sorry. So misconduct in research, it's nothing but when we follow falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, duplicate submission, and inappropriate authorship. And what is the COPE guidelines? So for handling these allegations, the COPE emphasizes that allegations must be taken seriously and investigated thoroughly. So respecting the confidentiality. So editors should make decisions based solely on accusations, but should seek an appropriate and fair investigation. So here what happens, the editors will decide independently and they should take the appropriate action towards any allegations of misconduct in the publication. And what are the responding to the findings? So if suppose the misconduct is confirmed, so the actions should be taken such as corrections. So we can instruct the author or the co-author or the publisher to do the further corrections or retraction. I've already told retractions means they will not permit to publish that particular the article or the data, or informing the relevant institution. So if you're working under any institutions, we are doing some malpractices with by falsification or fabrication or plagiarism, so that particular institution will be informed and should be taken by the journal, and the response should be proportional to the misconduct. So it depends upon whether it is minor error or it's been intentionally done. So these are all the allegations of misconduct COPE guidelines and how they respond from the editor side from the journals. And next is the authorship and contributorship. So what do you mean by authorship? So authorship denotes that, so who have made the substantial contribution to the research, while contributorship may include the person who provided support. So by the term itself, authorship means the particular person who works fully for the contribution towards the research, those people are called authorship. Whereas the contributorship defines the person who supports, like for data collection or technical assistance, but they do not qualify as the authors, such as if you are seeking help for SPSS package in statistics. So those person are called as contributorship. So that we will be acknowledging them in the acknowledgement or the disclosure. And next, what is the COPE guidelines criteria? So COPE recommends the authorship should be based on the significant contribution. Here, the 4 areas will be involved. So when the 4 criteria is met, so that person will be called as an author. The first thing is substantial involvement in study design, data collection, the analysis, and the interpretation. So the particular person or the researcher will completely involved in formulating their study design, the data collection procedure and data analysis, and the interpretation of the results and the discussion part. And the researcher will be writing or critically revising the article. And the final approval of the version will be published by the researcher. And then agreement to be accountable for the accuracy and integrity of the work. That is the honesty of the work and the trustworthiness of the research should be maintained here. When this 4 criteria is met, that particular person will be called as an authorship towards that particular contribution. Then avoiding authorship disputes. Here the contribution must be transparent and authorship order should be decided early. So before publication itself, we have to decide the authorship hierarchy. That is, who is the author, corresponding author or co-author, first author, second author, third author. So before publishing itself, we have to be decide according to the journals based on the author's contribution. And next is the complaints and appeals. So by the term complaints and appeals, what do you mean by complaint? So if anything mistakes happens or something wrong happens, we need some justification for any issues. So I'll be giving a complaint and will be receiving a justification towards it. Likewise, here complaints and appeals arise when an author or reviewer or reader disagrees with a decision made by the journal or editor. So once the paper is published, so when the paper is published by the journal or editor, the author or the reviewer or the reader, the people who studies that reads, like a students or we itself, will go through the refers others works through searching the other for comparison of the research justifications. So the complaints and appeals arise when an author, reviewer, or reader disagrees with the decision made by the journal or editor. So what is the COPE guidelines towards this? So first thing is complaints handling. So journals must have the clear process in place for handling the complaints. If suppose the complaints arise from the particular person or the author or reviewer, the journal must have the clear process about the editorial process, decisions, or the journal policies. So these should be made public and managed by an independent party to avoid this. When we look into the journal, so there will be clearly given about the journal description, about the editorial board, about the publication policies, about the APC, that is article publication charges. Everything will be clearly mentioned in the home page when you peep into the particular journal. And next is what is the appeal. So if an author appeals for editorial decision, so if a researcher or the publisher appeals for an editorial decision, what the COPE does means it advises an impartial review. So it will involve the re-evaluation by the new editor or reviewers. So particularly, it will go for the new editors and the reviewers' opinion. And the journal should respond to the complaints in timely and transparent manner. So this is about the complaints and appeals. So if any complaints appeal, the journal should go for the re-evaluation by the new editor and reviewers, and it should timely respond to that particular question. And next is conflict of interest. So conflict of interest is nothing but our personal, financial, or professional relationship may influence the research work. So it may bring bias in the action of the research or the publication process. So here what the COPE advices means, that is COPE Committee of Publication Ethics advises, all participants, either it is author, reviewer or editor, must disclose any conflict of interest that may influence the research or its presentation. So usually when we are publishing our research article, we will be giving a subtopic conflict of interest or declaration in our research manuscript. So that is very much important, disclosure. And then managing conflicts. Here what happens, the journal should ensure that conflicts do not compromise the integrity of the work. So integrity, I've already told, is nothing but the trustworthiness on the honesty, fairness, respect and the responsibilities. So this should not be compromise the integrity of the work. And this may involve assigning different reviewers or editors if conflicts are identified. Suppose if a conflict is arised for a particular paper, as if I said previously, we may get the opinion from the new reviewer or the new editor. And next, transparency. Transparency is nothing but we have to be very transparent, like a crystal clear, like a mirror image. Any potential conflict should be disclosed in the publication, including financial support, where we are getting the financial support or no financial support, and then institutional affiliations, and then or personal relationship. So these are all the things we have to be transparent to avoid the conflict of interest in our publication. So the data and reproducibility. So data reproducibility is nothing but, I've already told, it gives the consistent result. So it ensures that research findings can be independently verified by other researchers based on the methods and the data provided by the original researchers. So here, what are the COPE guidelines we have to follow is data transparency. Here, the author should make the data underlying their research available whenever possible. So this ensures that the researcher can validate findings or conduct further studies. So based on previous studies only, we are conducting the new studies. Some novelty we will be following, but irrespective of the thing, when the previous researcher published the original data, so we can validate that and conduct the further study for the future reference. And then clear methodology. So whatever the methods we have used in the research should be clearly described in sufficient detail. So the researchers can able to replicate the work based on the previous date methodology. And if replication is not possible also, the reasons can be clearly stated. So this is about the COPE guidelines on clear methodology. And next, data sharing policies. Here the journals are encouraged to have policies on data availability. So especially for the sensitive data, to promote openness while protecting confidentiality when required. So usually when we are collecting the data also, we'll be getting the informed consent from the participants that their data will not be disclosed, that is name, so name will not be disclosed. So all the data will be used for the research purpose only. Here the same thing, the particular journal should follow the data sharing policies based on the publication ethics. Next is the post-publication discussion and correction. So what do you mean by post-publication discussion and correction? So nothing but if suppose any errors or concerns arises after the paper publications. So what the publisher or the journal or the editor must do. So what is the COPE guidelines here? Post-publication debate. So the COPE promotes a culture. So what happens? Wherever the ongoing debate about published work is encouraged, so then journals should provide a platform for readers to comment and discuss the papers. So here, the space has to be given for the readers to provide their comments. And then corrections and retraction. Again, the same thing. If any significant errors or concerns are identified in the paper after the post publications also, the journal should publish the corrected one. So the errors should be corrected or it should be updated. And whereas if it is transparent and without delay. And then handling retraction. So retraction is nothing but the publication will be removed from that particular journal. Here the retraction should be clearly marked in both online as well as the printed version. That is both online as well as in the offline, the retraction should be made with the full explanation. So why that particular journal has been retracted, particular manuscript has been retracted from that issue or the journal. So the reason should be clearly mentioned both online as well as the offline version of the article. And next is the ethical oversight. So ethical oversight is nothing but, so we have to be ethically standard. That is, we have to follow the legal and ethical standards of our profession. And next, what is the COPE guidelines here? So ethics approval. So the authors must obtain the ethic committee. So before starting our research also, we from as a researcher, as a nursing professionals, we used to get approval from the IEC and then IRB, that is Institutional Ethical Committee Board or Institutional Review Board will be there. So we'll be getting the consent from the doctors or other professionals based on the study. From the experts, we'll be getting the content validity also. These are all matters in the ethics approval. The first thing is that it should not harm the human or animal subjects in irrespective of our study. So that sticks to the legal and professional standards of our ethics. And next, protection of participants. Again, the same thing. We should respect the participants' right and the dignity and the welfare. So here I say that is informed consent is essential, and privacy and confidentiality have to be maintained throughout our study. And then handling misconduct in ethical oversight. Suppose if ethical oversight has been done, that is misconduct has happened here. So what happens? So the COPE advises editors to investigate the ethical concerns. So what happened? What the ethical concerns have been raised in this publication? Suppose that is failed to gain the proper ethical approach. So if you have not got the ethical committee permission or the institutional review board permission, so here the action of misconduct will be considered and the appropriate action will be taken by the particular journals. And next is the intellectual property. Here, the intellectual property refers to the legal rights, such as your research ideas and the data and the publication. Here, the respect for copyright. The authors should copyright their own material. And nowadays, it is most probably we come across the intellectual property, that is patent. So we are getting the patent for our own research work or some innovations or novelty in our research. So authors must ensure that any copyrighted material, such as images or figures tables used in the publication, has proper permission. So if you are using others' copyrighted material, we should get the proper permission. So when we get the patent for our research study, that is research or the publication, so the followers, our students or the other colleagues or the other person from the same profession has to get the permission from us to use that material into their own study as a reference. And next is avoiding plagiarism. So plagiarism is nothing but the copying others' work. Okay, copying others' work and pasting into our original work. So that is called plagiarism, duplicating the others' work. So here what happens, the journal should have the screen submission for the plagiarism. Nowadays, many app is available for screening the plagiarism of the research manuscript. And if it is detected, we have to take the appropriate action. And then handling the intellectual property dispute. Suppose if the intellectual property, that is, it is copied from the other's work or plagiarism is done, here the journal must have the proper IP violation rules and regulations. And next is journal management. So effective journal management involves ensuring the smooth functioning of all aspects of publication process from manuscript submission to the final publication. This is indicated, that is from the starting submitting the manuscript till the publication, it comes under the journal management. So what are the policies or the guidelines by Committee of Publication Ethics? First thing is transparent policies. So here what happens, the journal should give the clear-cut information about the editor, about the peer review process, and the role of editors and the reviewers. I've already told you. So when you peep into the particular journal, in the national or international journal, the homepage clearly describes about the journal. It's a process, what is the submission process, how many days, that is publishing date and the processing days, and then peer review processes and the editors, role of the editor, reviewers, advisory board, And clearly it might have mentioned the editorial board also, the members who are involved in the editorial board, and everything will be clearly mentioned. So that is the transparency and quality control. Here the editors, whoever involved in that particular journal, should or must maintain the high standard of scientific quality. Suppose if any one of our colleague or something, you people or myself is playing a role of editor, if our friends or students submit a manuscript towards that particular journal, we should not be lenient with them. Irrespective of that, we should maintain the high standard of scientific quality towards their publication, and rigorous peer review must be followed, ensuring the ethical standards and addressing errors when necessary. And the governance. Here, the journal should be managed by the editorial board with a clear governance structure, and editors should be independently free from undue influence from sponsors or other stakeholders. So this is about the journal management. And next is the peer review process. By the term peer review process, you might have known. So peer review process is nothing but reviewed by the expert in that same field, because they will be well versed in that knowledge. They will be having the soundful knowledge and the subject expert. So here peer review is evaluation of the manuscript by experts in the field to ensure that research is original, methodologically sound, and contributes to the scientific body of knowledge. So here the COPE guidelines defines the confidentiality. So again, the same thing, peer review must be conducted in a confidential manner, and reviewers should not share details of the manuscript or use unpublished data for personal research. So if you're a peer reviewer, we should not share the details of the manuscript, and we should not use that unpublished data for our personal research use. And then unbiased review, again the same thing. We should not have an opinion, personal opinion, while providing the feedback for the particular manuscript, because it may affect the manuscript's quality and the scientific rigor, and not personal opinion of the authors also. So this is about the peer review process. So these are all the 10 core areas, practices. It's followed by the COPE guidelines, under the COPE. And again, transparency. Again, the same thing. Transparent is nothing but we should be very clear and transparent while providing the guidelines to promote the accountability of the research work. And next we'll move on to the principles of transparency. So previously we have discussed about the core practices under COPE guidelines. Here now we are going to discuss about the 16 principles of transparency. So here the best practice, it's based upon the journal. So here the membership for the organization, like a DOAJ. DOAJ is nothing but the Directory of Open Access Journal, and OASPA, that is Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association, and WAME, it's World Association of Medical Editors. So this best practice is required for the membership of in such organizations. So first thing is journal name. So the journal name should be clear and should be unique and not easily confused with others. And next, website. So each journal will have the proper website, and it should not mislead the information, and it should reflect the high standard. Then peer review. Usually the peer review process, the entire process should be clearly defined and declared and implemented in that particular journal. And then next, editorial board and management. So clear identification of the board members and their affiliations. So nowadays, according to the ISN, each person who comes under the editorial board or the reviewer board should have an institutional affiliation email ID. So they should not give the personal mail ID. They should own the institutional ID. When well-established institutions or the university, when you just go to the website of that, we can able to see what are the faculty members. Institutional mail ID will be given for the particular faculty. So all the faculty members will be owning their official mail ID. So the official mail ID is necessary to be an editorial member or the board member. Then authorship on contributor details. Again, the same thing. Specific policies for the authorship and contributorship and AI usage. So the journal has to follow the COPE guidelines towards authorship and contributor details and AI usage policy. Next is copyright and license. So explicit policies on copyright, licensing, and open access, usually under Creative Commons. So the copywriting and licensing property should be owned by the journal. And then author fee. It should be very transparent because article processing charges should be clearly defined in the particular journal, and the submission fees. Suppose if the waiver for some researchers or some authors, the journal will do waivers according to the situation or the institution based on the certain criterias. So they will waive the APC also. And then identification of or dealing with allegations or research misconduct. So it should have the clear policy towards the research misconduct allegations. And next, publication ethics. Again, the same thing. Explicit policies on conflict of interest, authorship, and the data. So the journal should follow all these policies according to the COPE guidelines. And then editorial team and the contact information. The journal should own the proper detailed information, and it should be accurate and it should be true according to the data. In the updated information should be available in the data in the journal. And next is the peer review process. And while considering the peer review process, the policies or the description, how it is done, how long it takes for the publications, everything has to be mentioned in the peer review process. And the peer review process, how it is done, it has to be clearly mentioned in that particular journal. And next is the author fees. And again, it should be clearly stated, including the waivers. And sorry. Then publication ethics, proactive management of ethics has to be there. So sorry, this I've already completed. So, and then copyright and licensing. Next is conflict of interest, and then ownership and management. Here, the disclosure of the publisher and the owner should be mentioned clearly in the particular journal. So what are the ethical issues? So what are the ethical issues when we face in the publication ethics is nothing but the duplicate and simultaneous submission, data falsification, plagiarism, citation manipulation, then image manipulation, copyright infringement, data fabrication, authorship issues. So no permission for using the data usage and no informed consent, salami slicing, and then non-declaration of conflict of interest. So these are all the few ethical issues we'll be facing in publication. What are the key ethical violations, main important key ethical violations in following the publication? Is first thing is fabrication or falsification of data. It's nothing but the making up or manipulating the data. So fabrication means we are making up the data. So we are not conducting the original work that the researcher, the researcher might have not done the research study originally. So they will be making up the false data. So that is called fabrication. And then falsification is nothing but the manipulating the data. Suppose if you're doing a investigation, that is a comparison between the two groups, control group and the experimental group. So after the intervention also, there is no change in the control group and the experimental group. As per our originality of the study, there is no difference. After the intervention, there is no difference in both the groups. But whereas what the author or the researcher do means they will manipulate the data. They will try to show there is effectiveness in their intervention in the experimental group rather than in the control group. That is called manipulating the data or the falsification of the data. And this should not be done to maintain the integrity and accountability. That is integrity and the credibility of our research work. We should not do this. And then plagiarism, again the same thing. Using others' works or ideas without attribution, just like cut, copy, and paste. So they will cut the other studies and they will copy and they paste into the and they will reproduce it as their original work, and they will be publishing it. So that should not be followed. And next, redundant or duplicate publication. Again, the same thing, like cutting the bread, whole bread into the slices. Okay, here the what happens, a single the single manuscript, research manuscript, will be sliced, will be cutted into different studies. So likewise, many interventions will be followed. That is combined intervention. That is effectiveness of applications of that is hot water application, or cold water application, or something like that. We will be introducing two or more intervention into the particular. So what that happens, the researcher will slice that one intervention, that is comparative study, like a comparative study from the control group and the experimental group. Or else what they will do, they will the effectiveness of hot water application on control group, on experimental group or particular group, and then application of some olive oil application, like that. So they will be slicing their particular same one research manuscript will be sliced into many, and it will be published in different journals. So this should not be done. And then conflict of interest. And again, the same thing. Some researchers will fail to disclose the financial and the personal and the professional ties while publishing their research work. It should not be done. So these are all the ethical violations in publication. So what are the impact of publication misconduct? So what impact means, the effect or the result, whether it will positively impact or the negatively impact the publishers or the readers. So the impact of publication misconduct is based on research community. So research community means we. So we will be doing our research work. We will be referring the others' work for the future research work, future reference. And the first thing is loss of interest in journals and research. So when the misconduct is particularly found in particular journal or found by the particular author, so we'll be losing our trust in that journal and will not publish further. And next is damage to careers, including those of innocent collaborators and colleagues. So irrespective of the thing, we'll trust our friends and we'll trust our colleagues, or we'll trust our institution members or something like that. So based on the trust, we'll be publishing along with them. We'll be like a co-author or a contributor. We'll be a contributor. So irrespective of the author or the researcher who have done the misconduct, will also be included in the misconduct thing. Next is damage to institution reputations. Again, the same thing. We will be giving the institutional affiliations. So when we publishing, we'll be giving the institutional affiliations. Whether you're studying, if you're a student means you'll be mentioning your college name. If you're working professional, we'll be mentioning our working institutional name. So it will damage the institution reputations also. And then corruption of the evidence base. So again, our evidence base is totally corrupted. We will be confused which evidence is true or which evidence is false, and then wasted time, effort, and funds. So these are all the effect for the research community. Whereas for the research participant, so the participants, so the study participants who are involved in that particular research, so the unethical research could directly harm the research participants also, because we don't know whom to believe. The participant, next time, if we genuinely doing that particular research and we approach that particular participant, they won't trust us because of this misconduct. And then general public is also affected. Why and how? It's nothing but the general public, the practice and policy. So based on the research, we will be enhancing whether this practice will improve the health status of the patient. So we may say, so breathing exercise may relieve hot flashes in menopause. So based on the previous research evidence, we will be coming to a conclusion that breathing exercises may reduce the hot flashes in menopausal women. So if it is true, we'll accept and we'll try to implement in the current scenario. But if it is false, if it is comes under the publication misconduct, we cannot follow them. So again, the general public will also be affected by the fraudulent research, and it will affect the future research and finding also. So future research will also be affected. And next is, what is the prevalence rate? So various sources based on how much misconduct is detected. So PubMed retractions. Retraction is that publication will be retracted from the journal. It is 0.02%. And US Office of Research Integrity, it indicates 0.01 to 0.001%. That is 1 in 1 lakh scientists. And then image manipulation. So image manipulation in Journal of Cell Biology, it indicates the 1%. And next, Food and Drug Administration audit. Here, the investigators guilty of serious scientific misconduct, about 2%. So these are all the prevalence, various report sources, how much misconduct has been detected. And next is recent, that is 2025 COPE guidelines and updates. So what is the recent guidelines and update is given by the COPE. First thing is retraction authority and process. So retraction requires a transparent process based on the validity of the scientific record, with discussion initiated exclusively by the editor-in-chief. I've already told you. So now recently the COPE have indicated the retraction with the replacement and retraction with removal. And next is guest edited corrections. So enhanced vigilance is required to prevent the unethical behavior, and including rigorous vetting of guest editors or ensuring editor-in-chief chief oversight to avoid the paper mill submissions. So paper mill is nothing but can anyone say what is paper mill? Can anyone aware about paper mill? Recently we come across this. No, okay. So paper mills is nothing but a fraudulent organization. I'm sorry to say about this in this forum. So fraudulent organization, that is, they will write false manuscript. Okay, so they will write false manuscript and they will offer the slots for different authors for sale for the academic customers. So here what happens, they will be, so if I, for example, if I'm having a manuscript, okay, whether it is originally done or it's falsely, fakely written, falsely manuscript, it's be created by me. So I'll be giving opportunity for others, authors or contributors, like a first author, second author, third author question is available with proper, that is with certain amount. So here what happens, to make money, they'll be writing the false manuscript. This is paper mill. So recently it has been evaluated. So the COPE guidelines, not only COPE, each and every journal like Elsevier, Springer Nature, Taylor and Francis and Sage, everyone follows to screen out the paper mill submission. And then data transparency and access. And here, so emphasizes on data sharing and providing detailed methodologies to facilitate validation and replication. And then integrity and peer review. Again, then integrity is nothing but the honesty. So the reviewers must provide objective and constructive and confidential feedback about the research manuscript. And then addressing digital decay. So the stronger web page citation practices and archiving are encouraged to combat link rot and content drift, maintaining the long-term integrity of the scholarly records. So these are all the guidelines and updates according to the COPE. And what are the strategic priorities for in the upcoming year, that is 2025 to 2028? What are the upcoming priorities that COPE has indicated to follow in publication ethics? Is first thing is integrity, and then education, then diversity and inclusion. So first thing is integrity. We know what is integrity, being honest, and education. So here, whenever we are using that AI or the other tools, so it should be clearly mentioned to avoid the ethical breaches. And then diversity and inclusion. Here what happens, we have to represent the broader and inclusive global scholarly community. Here finally, the COPE stress on the editorial decision must be independent. So the editor-in-chief is the decision authority or the decision maker. Then authorship guidelines. So according to the COPE and ICMJE, ICMJE is nothing but the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. So it is a committee with the medical journal editors. So here, who is an author? So I've already told you that a person who contributes towards the study design, data collection and the analysis and the papers publication, everything, and then drafting or critically revising the work and the final approval of the version to be published. And then accountability. So who is accountable? The person who fulfills these 4 criteria according to the COPE and IGMB is called as an author. And what is the responsibility? Here, the author should be accountability. So they are the responsible for the contribution towards the contribution. Authorship misconduct. So here, again, the same thing. In our profession, we have come across these things in recent days. There's ghost authors, guest or gift authors, and then dispute resolution. So guest or gift authors, we know. So a person will be listed as an author, but he or she might have not been contributed towards a particular paper. And then ghost author, someone, that is people who have contributed significantly but are not listed in the research. Usually in industries, that is pharmaceutical industries, the person who is directly contributing towards that particular subject, that is a research, will not be listed as an author. So these are all the ghost authors and guest or gift authors. And dispute resolution. Dispute resolution is nothing but authorship should be discussed yearly. Okay, so who is considered as a corresponding author or the co-author or the first author, second author? It should be early discussed, and it should not be influence the institution or the journal. So the authorship here, the flowchart of that, the guest authorship. So I've already told, guest authorship is nothing but they have not contributed to the research or writing, but the credentials will be giving the credentials. For example, so PhD. So while we are doing our PhD, we'll be doing our work, but we'll be giving our credit to our PhD guide also, or PhD advisor also. These are called the guest authorship and the gift authorship. Again, the same thing. Ghost authorship, I've already told you. So the person who is fully involved in that particular study or the research will not be given an authorship position. And next is just a flow chart, how the if anyone is plagiarized or thing, how the journal will be approving or reject the data, that is a sub article. So the author will be submitting the article, and the editorial office, they will check the quality for plagiarism, and then editorial board, it has to decide that they're reviewed by at least 1 or 2 suitably qualified experts. That is a review process, peer review process will be taking place. And then editor-in-chief. Editor-in-chief will decide whether the journals will be based on, that is the review process is particularly solely based on the journal criteria. And then the author will be revise the article. So if any errors or any corrections to be done, it will be informed to the author, and then author will revise that particular article, and it will be again sent for the submission. So if it is approved, it will be published. And if it is not approved, that is they may reject because of a copied or plagiarized or fabrication or falsification of data, and so they will reject the publication. So this is just a flowchart example. So, and again, so Frank Well, an expert, has written, so human nature is flawed, and the temptation to cheat, fabricate, falsify, or plagiarize, coupled with degrees of arrogance and greed, will indeed always remain with us. That temptation will, from time to time, fail to be resisted. The research community needs mechanisms that will minimize the occurrence of research misconduct, and also mechanisms to deal with this responsibly and expeditiously when it occurs. So it's nothing but always a human tendency. That is a human tendency is to be tempted. So it will be tempted to cheat or fabricate. It will be there, but irrespective of the thing, the mechanism. So we have to be very responsible, and we have to be very accountable for our research work. So it depends upon the individual. Then authorship problems. So what are all the signs that problems arise, authorship problems arise? Means first thing is language quality. So the language quality is not appropriate to the journal description. And next is the corresponding author. Again, according to the reviewer's comment, if the reviewer is providing a comment, the author is not responding. That corresponding author will not be responding. Again, the third thing, the manuscript will be drafted and revised by someone that like ghost authorship. I've told you, ghost authorship. And next is tracking and manuscript shows that authors have been added or removed. And further publication, some authors will be removed or new authors will be added. These are all the problem signs that may indicate the authorship problems. So, and then impossibly prolific author. Here, the department head will be listed as an author. Okay, so she will be just guiding us, but irrespective of the thing, while publishing, she will be listed as the first author. And next, authorship changes without notification during revision. So while the journal is revising, any corrections or errors is indicated and given for revision. So after revision, what happens? The authorship will be changed without notification to the particular journal. And next, several similar articles. Okay, salami slicing or plagiarism, salami slicing or the plagiarism. And next is the similarly, check shows work derived from this thesis where the original author is not on the author list or the acknowledged. So original author will not be acknowledged, or she or he will not be listed as an author also. And next, questionable roles of contributors. So the people who have drafted the paper or analyze the data will not be included as a contributor in that particular paper. And then unfeasibly long or short author list. Again, the same thing. So, for example, simple case report, like we are giving the case report about a patient or the particular disease condition. There we can able to see the list of 10 authors, more than 5 authors. If it is thesis or the PhD work or some other randomized control or some interventional studies, there a single author or 2 authors only will be listed. Again, the same thing. So in unfeasibly long or short author list. Then unspecified role in acknowledgement. So acknowledgement, so here without the proper specification of contribution. So some person will be contributed in conducting the data, or some institution will be providing the space to conduct that particular research onto the students, or some statisticians might have been helped us to in data analysis and discussion, all this part. So we might have specifically mention the contribution. We should mention the contribution towards a particular role. So here, if it is unspecified, it also leads to authorship problems. And next, name on author list known to be from unrelated research area. So the particular person who is not relevant with our subject, that is, if it is a person might not be relevant to nursing or other field persons may also be listed as an author in the publication of the research manuscript. And next, industry funded study with no authors from the sponsor company. So these are all the signs that may indicate the authorship problem. So what is the best practice we can make to prevent the authorship problems? There's 3 things we have to follow: clear policy, declarations, and the process. So we have to follow these 3 steps to avoid the authorship problems. And next is AI usage policy. So what is it? Nowadays, we'll be taking our laptop or tab or phone. We'll be going to the chat GPT or whatever the recent AI app is available. We'll just peeping into that. So recently, everyone is addicted towards that AI usage. So here in publication, what is the necessary of AI usage policy? Usually 30% rule. So nothing but 30% rule is nothing but 1/3 of our research study, that is our manuscript or any review, can be clearly automatically created by AI. Only 30% rule is applicable. So here, according to the COPE, that is 2023 or 2024 guidelines. So AI tools, example, chat GPT cannot be listed as an author. So here the computer will not be author, or your laptop will not be an author, or the AI tools will not be an author. Only the person, the researcher or the author who is solely doing the research work is called as an author. And then accountability gap. So here the AI lacks the capacity to be accountable, because when we are publishing our research work, we are questionable. The researcher or the author or the publisher or the journal is questionable. Not the AI tool what we have used in our study. So that is not responsible. So here the person, the individual is responsible for the integrity and originality of the work. And then human in the loop. So human in the loop is nothing but the humans are responsible for all the submissions content, including that is generated by the AI. So solely humans are responsible, not the computers or the machines or the technology. So 5 principles of AI. So the thing is fairness and inclusiveness. So the AI system should treat everyone equally without any bias. And then it should provide the privacy and security, and it should be transparent, and it should be accountable, and then reliable and safety. So whatever the AI tools we are using, it should follow this all the criteria by the particular author or the researcher. And next is the AI usage policy. So what are the transparency and disclosure we have to follow while adapting the AI into our research work? First thing is mandatory disclosure. Here what happens, the authors should or must disclose the use of AI in the manuscript, example, methods or acknowledgements. We have to mention what ChatGPT is used for deriving these methods or any data. So it should be mentioned in the methodology or the acknowledgement column, what AI is used, and then information need. The tool and the version and the purpose, everything should be mentioned in that. For example, ChatGPT 4, that is the tool and the version. For what purpose they are used? To refine the language in the introduction. So this is how we have to mention the usage of AI in our studies, either in the methodology or the acknowledgement column. And then exception. So here basic spelling and grammar checkers generally do not require disclosure. So when we are grammatically when we are checking our research study, and then basic spellings and all, that need not to be disclosed. Whereas the image generation. So here what happens, most publisher prohibit AI generated images and figures which is relevant to the research method. Actually, the Elsevier, Spring Nature, Taylor and Francis and Sage, they completely require the disclosure of using the AI tools. And again, they will no disclosure on disclosure. They will mention the policies on disclosure and non-disclosure. Each and every journal have their own AI policies. So before publishing, we have to look into the AI usage policy according to the journal, and we have to publish. And then risk of non-disclosure. So risk of non-disclosure. So when we are misinterpreting the AI generated content as original work, it will be breach of ethics and may lead to the rejection or the retraction of our research paper. So if you're not disclosing that particular AI usage, our paper may be rejected or retracted. Permissible and prohibited, where we can use and where we have to avoid the usage of AI, artificial intelligence. The first thing is permissible, where we have to use, where we can use with the disclosure. First, language editing and grammar refinement. So our language quality will be checked by the AI, and then improving the text readability, and then brainstorming or structuring ideas. So in these areas, we can use AI with the proper disclosure in the acknowledgement. And then prohibited. So when we non-disclosure on where we have to avoid, and what is the high risk it follows. First thing is generating original scientific content or data interpretation, and then creating images or figures banned by most publishers, and then use of AI for peer review violates the confidentiality. So these are all the areas to be avoided. And the best practices in AI usage. First thing is think early. So we have to discuss the authorship rules at the start of the research itself. And then we have to be very transparent, and we have to verify everything. So manually, we have to check, irrespective of the AI generated content also. As a researcher or the author, we have to manually check for inaccuracy or hallucination, and then consult resources. So you can follow the COPE flowcharts or the journal guidelines before the submission. So these are all the best practices while using or adapting the AI usage. And next, finally, to conclude. So publication ethics are fundamental to maintain. So first thing, main thing is to maintain the integrity, trustworthiness, credibility, accountability of our research work. So we have to follow the publication ethics. And then most important thing, why we are following COPE guidelines. COPE guidelines, what happens? It provides the proper flow charts for the editors and publishers. So it will improve the research integrity to avoid the paper mills. So paper mills, I told you. So false manuscripts will be created and it will be for sale. They will be selling for the profit of money. So to avoid this and all, COPE guidelines is very much important. And then for authors, what happens? For authors, it is necessary to improve the research soundability and knowledge and the transparent peer review process. For maintaining the integrity overall, to maintain the integrity, credibility, and the trustworthiness of research work, we should follow the publication ethics and the COPE guidelines. So these are all the reference for your kind information. So you can check into the publicationethics.org website, and you have a lot of information given by COPE. All the flowcharts will be given under that. So however, for each and everything, for fabrication data, for the falsification data, how the journal will be responding, the flowcharts, clear-cut flowcharts will be given in that particular website, such as publicationethics.org. And you have many online sources also to obtain the certificate, and you can also be a member, that is individual member or the journal institutional member. We can be a member under the publicationethics.org, that is COPE, Committee on Publication Ethics. So kindly go to that website and check into all the guidelines and the tools, whatever in the recent current updates and everything. So kindly check into that before publishing your research data. So thank you. Any questions? And kindly, sorry, in between I have some technical glitch, so I'm kindly sorry for that.
It's okay, ma'am. No problem for that. If anyone is having any question, they can ask ma'am. And does anyone is having any questions? I think the concept is clear for everyone, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Manisha, for giving me this opportunity once again.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much,
And
ma'am,
thank-
for the insightful presentation. So
Thank you,
hope
Linda.
everyone is very clear. It is a very wonderful presentation, ma'am. You have presented. There's so many things which I have learned from your presentation. From the participants, is there any question?
I think no one is having any question, Linda, ma'am.
Okay, and then I think we can wind up the session for today.
Definitely, ma'am.
So thank you everyone for your active participation, and hope to meet you again for tomorrow's session. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day ahead, everyone.